Hi, this video is on Google Forms. It's currently lesson 6 in our Google Apps Basics class. It's not going to be an in-depth look at Google Forms. We'll probably do something else for that later on. It's just enough to get you started. So you can see in the slide presentation here, we have the create a form screen that tells you the basics of creating a form, and I'll take you through that in a second. Then we have the important thing, which is who can respond to the form and how often they can respond to it. How they fill it out is here. In other words, how do you get a form to them once you've completed it and they're ready to submit and take it? And then how do you see the responses and the answers to what you've gathered in terms of information? Okay, so setting up and seeing form responses we'll talk about. So I'm going to switch over here to my Google Drive. You can be in whatever folder you want the form to reside in. Okay, so if you have a particular topic that the form is going to be about, I would switch to that folder first. Okay, so I'm going to just pop over here into my lesson materials folder and go into my online GAF class. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay, so I'm going to go up to new, and you'll notice you only see the 3 main tools. So you have to go down to more, and then you're going to come over here to Google Forms and create our Google Form. This is the new version of Google Forms. Eventually it's going to replace the old one, so we're going to do this lesson in the new version. To show you real quick though, if you're in the new version and you want to switch back to the old, there's a little running man down here. When you click on him, it puts you back into the old format. Across the top is this purple bar that lets you go back to the new version of Google Forms. Okay, so we'll give our form a title here. There is an error here that I've detected, so I'll show that to you. As you're typing the name of the form right here, it's lesson 6 we're on, right? And I switch to the next thing, you'll notice that it's supposed to be changing the name up here. Often it doesn't change the name up here, or it abbreviates what you typed up here. So you may have to click up here and then type it in. You notice as soon as I clicked up there, it took the title from here and put it as the name of the form up there. So you want your title and your name to match. Okay? I'm going to actually, I'll capitalize that because it's going to. Now here you get to start putting in your question. So our first question is, how often do you use forms? We'll go with. Okay. Now we have multiple types of questions we can choose here. Okay. Short answer and paragraph. The only catch with those is obviously if you're going to use a Google add-on to correct this test, if you're giving it as a test with correct answers, short answer and paragraph can't be automatically scored. Those have to be hand scored. Multiple choice, where you give them 4 or 5 choices and they can pick only one. Ironically, they call it multiple choice, but you can only pick one. Check boxes, where they can check as many as apply. Again, not when it's easily scored. If you do a checkbox one and you want it to be scored, they would have to check all of the boxes the same. So they'd have to choose the 3 correct answers or choose the 3 examples of, for instance. Okay? Drop down is pretty much the same as multiple choice. The only difference between the two is in multiple choice, all of your answers appear on the screen at the same time. So if you had 10 choices for a multiple choice and they were choosing one, the question would have 11 lines of text on the screen. If you do it in a drop-down format, it would be have the one question and then a drop-down box that had the 11 choices when they clicked on it. So it only takes up 2 rows on your screen. So any type of question that has a lot of responses, I would use drop-down instead of multiple choice. That's just me. Linear scale, also known as Likert scale, lets you set up a question with a scale from 1 to 5, or from 1 to 10, or 0 to 10, to be honest with you. Okay, so any subset of that, numbers from 0 to 10, or you can even start with 0 to 5. Okay. Here's the catch, though. You can only label the endpoints of your scale. So you can't label each one of them. So 0 could be I completely agree, and 5 could be I completely disagree. And you couldn't have the middle one being I somewhat or I agree. Only the end labels show up. Okay? So that was linear scale. Very similar to linear scale in some respects as multiple choice grid. It's a really neat kind of format. Basically, you ask your questions going down here. And then you put your answers going across the top. What it will build for you is a grid where the questions are over on the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, and the answers come across the top, and they can check the box where the question and the answer intersect. Okay, so a matrix or a multiple choice grid. Okay, unfortunately, until we're done with it, I can't actually show you what that would look like, but I'll leave that question in here so that you can get an idea of what it looks like towards the end. Down here, you can say require one response per row, meaning that they have to answer each of these with one of these in order to submit the thing. So I'm going to say yes, that's what I want to do. Okay. You can give a hint text on any question by clicking the three dots down here in the corner, and that's like, please choose only one choice for each question. Okay. With this particular one, you can also say that they can only limit to one response per column, which means they can only use completely agree once for each of these three. So if you were having people rank things, you would click limit to one response per column here, and it would make sure that they couldn't use any of the choices more than once for each of the questions. So that's kind of how you would do like a matching panel if you wanted to. Okay, all those are, these two are very specific options for the multiple choice grid. You won't see them on the other types. So if I click on the plus here, it lets me add another question to my test. So this one is a multiple choice. How many times a day do you have a glass of water? Got to stay hydrated. A multiple choice. 1, 2, and as soon as you hit enter, it brings you down to the next choice. 3, and then we'll go with 4 plus. Okay. You can use the add other option for a multiple choice question. Based on that, they would type in the answer. The problem with add other is, again, if you are trying to score it in some way, shape, or form, or if you want to have Google aggregate the data automatically, if you put add other and they type in FOUR instead of putting the number 4 in, those will be considered separate choices, and so they won't aggregate very well. You can always remove a choice by clicking on the X over here. Okay. So multiple choice. This means this question is required. If I check that, they have to answer this question before they'll be able to submit the form. So if you're building a lot of questions with this 1, 2, 3, 4 plus format, you might choose to copy the question or duplicate it. Basically, it puts the same question, and then you keep the same answer choices. What you would then do is edit the question. So if they drink a lot of water, we'll go have to use the facilities. Okay. So you could use the same answer bank for multiple questions very quickly by using the duplicate question feature. All right. I'm not going to show you an example right now of every type of question choice in this particular list here. Okay. A lot of them make sense. Up here, I'll go through this real quick. You can add a title and description. Basically, if you start a new page in your thing, it comes with a title and description. If you wanted to add a title and description box, you could do that at any point in time. So if you had a section of questions on a page that needed a separate title and a separate description, like for the following 3 questions, for the next 3 questions, use the image below. Okay, so I put that's a page header in there, title. Then I can come down here and say add an image. So it lets you go out and search the internet if you want, or you can choose an image you've already saved to one of your resources. So I'm going to look for the election of 1850. There's my map. I insert it. So now I have this map, and below it I can start putting questions on having to do this. So my first question will be a paragraph answer. Explain how the map above illustrates the term sectionalism. Okay. All right. So you can quickly build a page with 3 questions on it that go with the image. You do have the option in Google of telling it to shuffle the questions based on randomness. The problem with that setting, however, is, and I can't even remember where that setting is in the new one. Let me see if I can find it real quick. going to be up on one of these screens up here. Oh, shuffle question order. Here it is. It was on the screen and under the settings that I went to. If you choose that, it shuffles the questions on a page. And the unfortunate part is the image or the video that you insert, which is insert video here, those are considered questions. So if I put, for the next 3 questions, use the image below, this image could be mixed in between the questions. So you could have question, image, question, question, or question, 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 image, or image, question, question if you use that shuffle. So be aware of that. Don't use the shuffle unless all you really do is have straight questions and the order of them doesn't matter. Okay? So we've got a 2-page test right now, and then we've got an image that leads to more questions below it. Right? So we're ready to move on. Doing questions, really the easy part of it. Okay? You do have options, by the way, and I'm not going to get too much into this in the sample one, but you do have an option for a multiple choice question of deciding that based on what answer they give, it goes to a different section. So if I set that up, what would happen is I could say for this one, go to page 5. For this one, go to page 7. Okay? And then down here, after this page is done, I can say go to this page or go to that page. So you can actually make, in Google Forms, a branching choose your own adventure kind of thing, or make a choice here takes you down this path, where a choice here takes you down a different path. So you could actually do a leveled test that way. Give them a hard question to start with. If they get it right, they go down the harder track. If they get it wrong, they go down the easier track. Okay? Not necessarily telling them that ahead of time, of course. All right, so our test is done. We have however many pages we want. We've decided whether they go on to the next question automatically. Now a little bit about the color and customization. We can choose a color palette for our test where the kids will see it in green, or we can choose an image for our test. And Google does have a library of different themes for their forms. Okay, some of them have movement in them. All right, you can also upload your own photo to make it a custom type of. There we go. We'll choose the picture of the sill for this one. And so then my test becomes themed based on that image. Okay? You'll see it puts like a little bar up here with the image, and it changes the color scheme to kind of match the picture that you chose. Okay, so that's customizing the color palette for it. Okay? Next, we're going to skip over the preview one for a second and go right to settings. Okay? Because these are super, super important. Right now, it says who can respond to this quiz. Only people in the Shenandoah School District, which means they need an @shenschools.org account, and they need to be logged in with it. The other option is anyone in the world who has the big long address up here at the top can take this form. So a lot of the time we're going to use this anyone in Shen School District. If we say automatically collect the respondent's username, it'll put their 8-letter username at Shen Schools, or essentially their email address, in the form results. That's really useful so that you don't have to put a name field in, but it's also useful if you want to score the results and automatically send them back to them via that email address. You want to have that box checked. And you can submit only one response, means they can only take this survey/quiz once. Okay? When you check that box, notice that the submit another response box down here gets unchecked automatically. Okay? Edit the response, see summary responses, very, very rarely used. I'm not going to talk about them right now. Show progress bar only works if you have multiple pages in your presentation, and it'll say you're 25% done, 50% done, etc. Shuffle question order we already talked about. Don't do that if you're putting videos or images into your pages, because it'll shuffle them in with the questions. Okay? So really important is this first box and the second one, whether you want it to be just Shen people and whether you want it to collect their username. Highly recommended if you're doing it, not anonymous surveys, but if you're doing it to score it and send the results back to them. So I'm going to click Save in this case. All right, so I've set up my settings. So we're all set to go, and we're ready to start accepting answers. We have to click on Responses here, and then determine, are we accepting responses right now or not? By toggling this on or off, basically, if you set it this way, people will get a message saying you can't take this quiz or survey right now. Set it this way, and it says it's waiting for responses. Where are those responses going to go? Well, by default, they go into the form, and you can only see them by coming back into here and looking at the responses. However, the best way to do it, because then you can manipulate the data and put it into graphs and stuff really easily, is say create a spreadsheet. So when I click create a spreadsheet, it'll create a new spreadsheet. It'll give it the same name as the form, except that it puts the parentheses responses in it. In the folder that you created the form, you'll see the purple form icon, and then you'll see the green spreadsheet icon. The green spreadsheet icon will have all the results in it. So as soon as I click create, that happens. Okay, it automatically opens it up. You can see it has a timestamp for when they submitted the form, the column for their username, and then it has each of the questions going across where their answers will appear as they fill them in. Okay, if I go back over here to my Google Drive, what I will see is the form, if I want to make changes to it, the responses from the people who took it. Okay, so back over here to the form. How do we have people actually take it now that it's set up to accept answers and we're waiting for it? We have 0 responses. Click up here on the send button, and we have a couple different ways. Notice it gives you the same choices as to who can take it over again here that we previously selected on that other screen. So if you didn't do them there, you could do them here also, and vice versa. It turns them on or off in both places. Okay? So here is where I could send an email to people with the address they would click on to take the form. Google will automatically do that when you put in the email, the subject, the message, and you can put in multiple emails. Or you can click on this little link tool here and copy this address, and then you can paste this address into your Google Classroom. Although that's not the recommended way to do it in Classroom. The recommended way to do it in Classroom is to add an assignment, go to your drive, and actually select the purple forms icon. But you could post this on a web page, you could send this in Outlook, you could shorten it in a URL shortener like goo.gl or bit.ly or tiny.cc or any of those other shorteners. Okay. In fact, Google will do it for you right here if you click on this, and it'll shorten it down to a much smaller address to give people. Okay. You say copy, that address is now copied, and you can paste it in an email. You can also share it on Facebook, Google+. You can send out a tweet with it, okay, however you want to do that there. I almost always use the link tool and then put this link somewhere for people to fill it out. Okay? So let's assume that I've sent this out to people, that they've taken it, and I now have some data in there that I want to look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close these sample ones and go to one of my actual ones in here that has data in it. Okay, so I'm going to just pop over here, and I'm going to use this. This is our sign-in form for when people take classes. I open up the spreadsheet that has all the responses in it. Okay, so I get all of their information. But here's where it gets really cool. You come up here to form, and you go show summary of responses. What Google will automatically do is take all the data that's in your response spreadsheet, and it will summarize it for you into some graphs and some charts. Okay, so show summary of responses. When I do that, the questions that it can't summarize, because every answer is pretty much different, it just puts like this and you can scroll through them. But the questions that can be summarized, it builds the graphs automatically for you. Okay? So you can see percentages over here, colors over here. Alright, so we'll automatically build these for all of you. And I'm not going to get into right now how you would score a test automatically. It has to do with using an add-on called Flubberoo. Feel free to try it on your own. But that's the basics of how you create a form, and then how you